if you could go ahead and just give your staff liaison report. I think you were going to talk about the county fair.
Yes, so I did, regards to the county fair, DAC participation, I did reach out to our, CMO, county manager office, liaison rep for the county fair, and let her know that, DAC is interested. So as soon as, the preliminary planning begins, what she will do is reach out to me with the information, and then I would forward it to, I can forward it as a group or a designated individual.
Okay. Did she give any sense when they start planning?
She did not at this time. She didn't have a time.
Okay, so if you don't mind, when you get that information, if you can share it with me, if it happens when I'm away, I'll also share it with Elizabeth. And then hopefully we'll be able to talk about it at the April or May meeting and have a discussion about what we would like to do with the fair and who's available. Okay, anything else?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna hold off on approving the minutes. And we did hear from Andrew on the flyer. So we've had that working group report. Elizabeth, if you can just chat briefly about what you submitted on behalf of DAC for the transportation future.
She's not on yet.
Oh, she's not back. Okay. And let's see what else. And if everybody can look at those minutes, because we do have to approve the minutes. Oh, here's Brian. Hello, Brian. We're just waiting for Elizabeth. We're just going to go take a look at the minutes. And I know that I had, I think, a comment. Mine, Courtney, was on page 2. It's under the chair's report. And there's an additional topic that we discussed. And it was, so the third bullet topics discussed included support for accessibility /ADA senior liaison FY27 budget position. And then when you're done with that, I have one more. At the bottom of the page under upcoming event, under number 2, should read Commissioner Elizabeth is coordinating DAC's participation and accessibility planning. Are there any other additions, corrections to the minutes?
Done. I looked. I don't have any.
Do we have a motion to approve?
We do that. We got enough people to do that, I guess, right?
We do.
Okay. I so move. We approve the minutes
We have a second?
from certain, yeah.
Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you. And we've had our staff liaison report. Okay, Brian, you are back, and I think you and Laura have been tracking legislation much more closely than I have. Is there anything on the legislative front that you want to report? He stepped away. Okay. Is there anything you want to report, Laura, on the legislative front?
I've heard it recently referred to this session as being good for disability rights and not so great for disability funding for obvious reasons. So we've had a lot of really good, I mean, the session isn't, it's almost over, but not quite over yet. So there's a lot of promising kind of movements in some of the bills, related to voting and disability justice and things like that. I'll have a better sense in a couple of weeks when the session is over and when they both chambers pass the budget for the state.
Okay. And when Brian gets back, I want to ask him to confirm that there was, oh, Brian, there you are. On the legislative front, I know that a bill did make crossover to connect it wasn't to force, it was to encourage local jurisdictions when planning for affordable housing to ensure that accessible transportation was duly designed. So I don't know if you have been tracking that in terms of where that legislation is.
I haven't in particular, sorry, the past 3 weeks have been nightmarish in terms of getting my new apartment that I'm currently in. So apologies, I did slip a bit on tracking that, but I'll see if I can find the status of it. But if it's gone through crossover, I haven't heard of any bill being on the chopping block per se. So did you happen to know it was accessibility and transit? So let me see.
Yeah, I don't have the number in front of me,
Okay.
and that's
All
okay.
good.
Okay. So we'll hold back on that because I do want to mention it at the Commission on Aging Forum, because I think it's really important for just transportation, accessibility and safety, right? That's a big one. Okay. Courtney, I think Andrew sent you the updated brochure. If you could pull that up and then if we can just vote on approving that.
Oh, love it. Love it. It's great. Much improved.
That looks good.
Does.
Can you scroll down just a little bit, Courtney? So you've got a tiny URL. Is the county
It's
URL?
pretty long, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Tiny URLs aren't supposed to expire, so.
Okay,
that's-
well, and this is a pilot. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve this as a pilot brochure?
So moved. Much better.
And seconded.
Second?
Okay, so we have that. So Courtney, just let me know what I need to do. You said that you could have them printed and I could come and get them. If Friday, if possible. Monday, I have to be at that forum at like 8:45 a.m.
I'll print them on Thursday and I can down here at the Welcome Center on Friday. We can go.
Okay, we'll work it out between us. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Courtney, if you could put up the justification that the budget request that we're asking for. And I circulated that. And I just wanted to open up the floor for discussion around this budget proposal, and I wanted to give some background. I have met with JD twice to discuss this, and I understand that it is an extremely financially tight situation. And if you notice, now we're asking for a contractor, and the rationale for that was in every budget cycle, there's funding and there's dire situations and there's cuts. But when a fiscal year unfolds, there's often funding that was committed to a particular position or project that might not be used. And so that funding might be able to be reprogrammed for a different purpose, especially if there is a solid justification in place and support in place. So JD and I, based on our experience in the federal government, that happened quite frequently. So when it became apparent to ask for a new full-time employee position, that was very, very challenging. This was the strategy that we did talk about. And I think we've referenced that Laura, Andrew, and I looked at, I think, 5 position announcements that were the federally mandated ADA coordinator position. And I met with Courtney and I met with her supervisor to ensure that the new duties and tasks that are being proposed are currently not in anybody's work responsibilities and are really outside the scope of an ADA coordinator based on our research. So I wanted to open the floor and especially want to hear everyone's thoughts of the pros and cons of calling that position an accessibility ADA senior liaison. Or if it might be better to term it accessibility senior liaison.
Say the last part again, one more time.
So we had some conversation before we took a break that if we do include ADA in that position title, there could be some confusion with regards to the federally mandated ADA coordinator position that is Title II responsibilities and grievances. And this position is in a very different arena. And so Elizabeth also made the point that it is beyond ADA. You know, but the bottom line up front, justification is establishing this position will help embed accessibility expertise upstream in planning and implementation, reducing delays, avoiding costly retrofits, and mitigating the risk of expensive compliance actions or litigation.
Contract position because
The county is cutting 50+ full-time employee positions.
right,
With
but there's
this-
in there a risk with the contract position. I guess where I'm heading. I understand that. I just understand. I'm trying to understand where would that? I'm trying to picture a contractor that would do this.
So, the county does have full-time employees and contractors. The contract term could be laid out depending on the funding available. If the funding became available during the second half of the fiscal year, it would be the second half of the fiscal year with the opportunity to extend it as funds became available, or if for the subsequent budget, a full-time employee position was approved, it would be opened up and the individual who had served in the contract as a contractor could be encouraged to apply with no guarantee of
Right, have to be careful
full-time
about that. Right.
employee selection.
So
trying
just to
think of-
clarify, this is
Yeah.
soft funding that'll roll into the role if that money is available later in
Yes,
the year.
yes. So, and what Andrew was saying was that he's calling it soft funding. So it would be DAC justifying the position, understanding that it's challenging budget environment, and understanding that there might be opportunity for funding if funds from something else were reprogrammed, and funding becomes available in a variety of ways. If funding had been set aside to fill another contract position and then the county decided not to do it, or if they only needed that position for 6 months and then 6 months of funding was available. So does that answer your question?
I'm just looked
Because-
up, go ahead, go ahead. I was just looking up, I just Googled it and found a definition for contractors in ADA and fair housing. Says several firms and experts specialize in ADA and Fair Housing Act compliance, offering services ranging from construction inspections and design reviews to litigation support and expert witness testimony. These experts work with architects, developers, property managers, and owners to ensure compliance across all project phases. Sounds good. The name of the companies are Edelman and Associates, PLLC, a leading firm with, well, there are some out there. Okay. LCM
And it
Architects.
does not have to be a company. So Arlington County could put out a request for a proposal that they were looking to bring on board a contractor with the following qualifications to serve in the following role. So it could be an individual who stepped forward who has that expertise. It could be a company offering an individual. So either way, this is not unusual.
No, I know. I'm just sending, there's a bunch of companies here that could be, I'm just gonna send you that. It's a perfect job description and a very short summary. I'm just gonna send it to you for fun, Karen.
Thank
Just because
you.
yeah,
I actually looked at some of those descriptions.
yeah, it's just, this one's just one description, kind of covers it all. And then it leaves like 4 companies or 5 companies that have expertise that it would go out to for a bid. Anyway, okay, cool, understand. Answer my
So
question.
our commission and the other commissions and committees are asked to submit any budget requests to the county clerk. There's a date, I think by the end of March, and I'm going to be out of pocket. I'm going to be traveling after the 17th. So it's important that DAC does put forward our budget requests. So that's why I would like to open the floor for comments, because I'd like to see if we can approve this, a version of it tonight, so that we can submit it. I know in the past, in our general statement, we've said we like this position, but I think it's the first time that we've made a compelling case for it.
I think the document provided provides us a solid foundation to approve tonight. And if if we have to have ongoing discussions between now and what they approved the budget in June, I believe. Yeah, we can certainly do that. But I think this is a great starting point.
Thank you. And Elizabeth, in my absence, is going to represent us. So the progression is that DAC, if we approved it, we'd submit it to the clerk, and I've discussed it with JD. And then Elizabeth would prepare a short statement supporting it, and she would be at that meeting. But this would be submitted ahead of time. So I have run it by JD. I actually ran it by the chair of the Commission on Aging, because we do have shared equities in some areas. So he had positive comments about it, but I'd like to hear some feedback on if that title works, or would we be better positioned if we called it an accessibility senior liaison position?
Well, I've stated already that I prefer accessibility. And I don't, why does it need to be senior? Would we have a better chance if we did regular? I mean,
We are actually comparing position descriptions. We're looking for a senior level of expertise. It's not someone with 2 or 3 years experience. It would be somebody who was a registered architect or a degree in
I
planning.
see.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily, I was just thinking that it made it more expensive, but if it's senior, it is more expensive. So
It is.
clarifying that.
Bryant, you had your hand up. You're on mute, Brian, if you'd like to share.
Sorry. I
That's okay.
think accessibility is the way to go. It might seem small potatoes for the reason I am about to give, but just, I think if we had it as ADA, staff could come back saying, well, we already have an ADA liaison / coordinator, we already have an ADA position on staff.
Right.
Why would we introduce another one? Where if we just focus on accessibility, I think that it provides a the lines are clear between the two positions that would be in existence if this was able to come to fruition in the upcoming budget cycle.
Thank you.
Quick pop.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say, should we make it explicit in the job description or the position description that this is not a federally mandated like Title II role?
Courtney, if you scroll down, it indicates that it's separate. Hold on, distinction,
Not.
right?
Yeah.
So this, it just indicates, are you suggesting the proposed accessibility senior liaison is not required under federal law, period? The accessibility senior liaison would provide proactive technical expertise?
I think that could help. Do we need to say that we already have that position? Even though it does explicitly say.
We have to have that position, it's legally
Well, yeah,
mandated.
right,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that.
Yeah,
I think. I guess that's.
it does,
clear.
I think
Yeah,
it's clear.
All right.
Okay, so what we could consider doing is just, Courtney, if you can go to where it says the proposed, so the proposed ADA senior liaison position is not required under federal law. Take your time. Yes.
It's not gonna let. Edit.
Oh, well then we're gonna have to agree to the edits. I'll have to do that. He makes notes. So what I'm hearing is support to take out ADA. I think that it's a compelling justification. And then Andrew's suggestion to be very explicit that the position is not required under federal law.
Yeah.
Let me just make a note. Okay, any other suggestions for edits? Do we have a motion then to approve this with two changes? To take out accessibility ADA senior liaison and change the title to accessibility senior liaison? And then to clarify that the position is not required under federal law.
Motion to pass the position description with the two stated amendments.
Do we have a second?
I second. Elizabeth.
Okay, so Courtney, I'll go ahead and make those updates and send it back, and then I'll, that'll be for your reference, because I think I have to submit it to the clerk, to Mason, and then I'll, copy JD and take care of that. And many thanks in advance to Elizabeth, who is going to be representing us, at that April meeting. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you've done all the work. Thank you.
No, I have not done all the work. Laura and Andrew did some work before the first of the year, and yes. Elizabeth, if you can go ahead and say a few words about the transportation futures document, the DAC input that you just submitted.
Sure. I've talked about this in past meetings, so I'll be as brief as possible. Each one of the Arlington County commissions and advisory counties had to suggest 2 ways in which Arlington County could actually implement its 23 goals for the next 10 years. So I think I sent out folks the 23 different goals, and Marilyn and Karen and I included recommendations, and Courtney has agreed to distribute them. And the most important thing is that I I I looked at the Pedestrian Advisory Commission and Bicycle Advisory Commission recommendations as well, because I figured it wouldn't hurt to be consistent with them if we were. And so some of them, I'd say probably at least 10 of the recommendations, 8 to 10, are also consistent with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, except that I've added in specific language to ensure that our issues are taken into account. And I think this might be good because Pedestrian Advisory Committee has a lot of input power. And there was only one committee that I thought had, and Marilyn, I didn't take out the tagline at the end because I wanted to make clear what the underline was about. But thank you for that suggestion. The only conflict I saw with other committees' recommendations were the environmental committee, which was proposing to get rid of as many curbs as possible. And I feel that we really need the curb space for drop off and pickup. That's that.
So thank you so much for your work. Elizabeth and I are in dialogue because I've asked her to recommend to me 4 or 5 of the goals that are probably the most important for DAC, and I'm going to talk about them at the Commission on Aging community engagement event in terms of where our advocacy and just our advocacy is going to be in terms of an advisory commission. So thank you. That was a lot of work. Elizabeth and Maryland, I know you've been attending site planning review commission meetings. I attended the one that I referenced that the developer could not tell us how many accessible housing units there were going to be. I don't think I need to say anymore. That's pretty upsetting. I put up on our Google Drive a calendar as I see these site planning review meetings coming up. It's getting really hard for the 3 of us to cover them. So I'm looking for more folks to cover them. And I think having those questions that we're talking about ahead of time and having that individual that JD referenced to come in and speak to us, I think would be really great. And Elizabeth is going to chair our April meeting. And Elizabeth, I would give you all the power if you think it would be helpful to invite her to come in April. I would be fully in support of that so that this process becomes a little bit demystified, and I think it would be helpful. So I think JD said that he'd follow up with that information, and I think that would be really positive for the April meeting.
Okay. Did I'm trying to recall, did JD say, let me contact her first, or we can just go out and directly contact her?
I don't know who she is, so tonight I can just reach out.
She is the head of the planning commission. So she gets to decide. I've learned this from my husband. She gets to decide, which overall projects get funded, like the OMB. I think.
Yes. Okay, Courtney can reach out to her and,
Mm-hmm.
you will have in my absence a very full April meeting because, you already have the star auditors, but that could be very, very informative. So Courtney, if you want to just invite her for April, that'll be a really robust agenda.
Okay, as far as the STAR audit, do we have anybody who is versed in transportation, uh, uh, like, STAR issues? Because the last time we discussed these issues, it was just, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name, also at UCNB. So,
Doris,
well, not Doris, but, I'll think of her name in a second. She was the past chair. Um, uh, oh my gosh, Alexa. She's the only one that has spoken for our committee on STAR issues. So I'm a little bit worried if we have the STAR person come and not have somebody who's able to express concerns with the STAR report. But if we don't have someone, I'll read the STAR report.
and I met on the Commission on Aging. She is the fairly new head of their transportation working group, which, like us, the working groups are 2 people. And the Commission on Aging is very interested in putting together a resource for the community around transportation options, including accessible transportation. So I've put Elizabeth in contact with her. I think that's something we could support and do jointly, and that's been part of our strategic goals to do these joint efforts. And
Oh,
she's actually attending, she's been invited and has accepted coming to the April DAC meeting to hear from the auditors. So
okay.
she'll also ask a lot of questions.
Okay, I
And
read all that. And yeah, she already RSVP'd. So that will be great.
And at the community engagement event the 16th, I'm going to encourage interested citizens to attend our meeting in April to hear from the STAR auditors, especially if they have had challenges with the service. So you might have quite a few people showing up, actually.
Good.
ECNB could also encourage clients who might have had challenges with STAR to also attend in April, and they can give public comment. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
You might
Well,
have a really full meeting, Elizabeth, when I'm
all
not
right.
here.
Well, I am not worried then.
You can handle it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think the last of the working group reports was grants. So Marilyn, what do you want to say about grants?
Let's see, I only got one input and that's my own. But I do understand Andrew's got an input. I'm going to talk to him. If he has time, we can talk about it now. I don't know, Andrew, or if anybody else that I sent out today, all my text is in red for my responses for how I evaluated the issue. And I can briefly tell you what my issues were, both positive and negative. This is my first time reviewing grants, and I did learn something about it once I went through and found all the files. I think I was overwhelmed by the sheer number of the attachments that came out from each of the grantors and that were distributed. And I think there's some things that can be really improved, I think, easily, but the rubric got me completely weighed down. I tried to do exactly what was told to me to do with that rubric. So I created a spreadsheet that I sent out to you all that I took away all my grades or my scoring, and any of the companies, any of the grants, people that submitted grants, so that it would be pure. But you could see what I was trying to do is absolutely follow the direction to the letter of the law of the rubric. And by doing that, I got bogged down in both the grading system for each of the major categories, as well as trying to do it for each of the little things that were required within each of those little categories. So I had to create a spreadsheet. In doing that, I think I lost the purpose and the content that I needed to focus on, in addition to trying to find the summary or the detail document from each of the grant people that were putting in for grants. So some of this I think is a no-brainer. Some of it will be, I think, I don't want to use the word political because I know a lot of people work really hard to create that rubric. I don't think we should go to where it's, 0 to 10 for everybody for the consistency of the scoring for all 4 categories. That would be really easy. Did they do well or not in those 4 categories? Or, if you look at the subcategories, did that weigh in your mind as to what did better? But I got really, really bogged down in the difference in the scoring for each of the major categories, and then trying to do the right job of going into the little. And if you look at my spreadsheet that I attached, that's how I had a workaround. And doing that, I lost, I think, a lot of understanding what each of the grantors were doing in summary. Versus, do we really need to know who's on the boards? Do we need to know? A lot of those things could be packaged in a description going out to them if it's really required, to the people as far as the instructions. And then if it was disseminated, that could be in a separate package so that we really don't have to go hunting for the most meaningful stuff to review in assessing a grant. So there's some work that needs to be done. I can't do it all by myself. I need your input. So I would recommend, if you all, anybody did do the reviews, whoever was involved in the reviews, to look at my red text under the survey I put out of questionnaires and see if you agree or disagree. Let me know as the lead, and then I will either summarize or whatever, but there's actions that need to be taken. I think, what did we say, between here and July if we want to improve the process?
Around July, yes.
Around July. And I kind of want, I hate to overstate this, I hate to use this really awful term to keep it really simple, KISS approach, that we need to make this so that it is not so daunting. And then my other thing that I asked about in here is one of the questions was, do we want to be the reviewers? Do we want to be the only people who review it, or we do send it to the Association of Aging, the aging group? Who else do we take it to the county staff or the board to help review these grants? Should it all fall to us? So I would like to get input from everybody on that, and instead of just doing it all myself and then it's going forward or me trying to create it, I would rather have input. And I think I would need from Courtney some history of how this was done in the past, of what she does know and who did it from the very beginning, only because I may want to understand why certain things why it's been like this. Because I'm oversimplifying. That's all I have to say about that, because I know we're running out of time. Does anybody want a discussion on this that were involved in the reviews? Or can just
Brian had his hand up first.
Oh, I didn't see you, Brian. Thanks.
All good. So I will, now that, I have energy to focus on reviewing this, I will go ahead and, take a look at that. I will say the work that I've done in the Community Development Citizen Advisory Commission, it was, it's still a mentally heavy process to go through, reviewing all of the grant paperwork. But the way it was structured, it really helped guide the committee through the process. We had, staff within the county were given the score sheet for them to score, and then they had an SME review summary, and it got down to points of is this a duplicative program within the services offered by the county? Is it a complementary program? Past reporting metrics. Again, this is a federal, the funds we deal with are federal, so they require a bit more regulatory oversight, but it's in terms of reporting metrics, did, this grantee meet the expectations laid out in their proposal? What is county staff's view of this organization. Do they think they're set up to provide the requested services? So we did have a staff review, and it was really helpful, and it went beyond, the immediate staff report. Like we had someone from Parks and Rec review it. It really was dependent on the application. So it was a 2-month process. It was a 1-month process where, we reviewed the applications 1 week. We scored it internally, and then we reviewed it as a group, and that's when we kind of like adjust our scoring after discussing each application. And then also another thing we should consider is on this committee, we use a software called Neighborly. It's called Neighborly. Let me see if I can provide a link.
Is it free?
Yeah, is it free?
So the county has a subscription for it, for the community development. I'm not sure if it's a per I'm not sure what the pricing is on it. But I think it might be worth it for us to approach the housing and community development staff to see if it could be possible for us to use it for our purposes. It is a niche software, but I think potentially it could be helpful for us, so we're not juggling, 12 different spreadsheets and comment forms but yeah, it really packages it neatly and helps guide you through each of the scoring sections. And like the applicants, they put their responses in the application, so it's not in this Word doc. It's broken up by section, and they can upload, the additional documentation, like staff resumes, stuff like that. So
So it's a push-pull. In other words, right? In other words, what goes to the grantors filled this out,
mhm,
and then we review using that same software.
mhm.
So we're reviewing what they did on that same software, and then we're scoring using that same software.
Correct. And then we
That
had like
makes a lot of sense. Okay.
yeah. And then we had a meeting where we all came together as reviewers. And it was spread out over 4 weeks, because we had like 42 applications we had to review.
Oh.
Yeah. But like each Wednesday meeting, it was like, all right, we scored this batch of applications. I would say this is why I scored, them for example, a 6 in organizational capacity, but a 3 in scope. And, Marilyn, you would say, well, I scored them a 6 in scope, but a 3 in organizational capacity. And, we would if I decide, oh yeah, they're great point, let me change my score. That's probably a next phase development. But just some insight into how that process went. And that process is actually developed by a grant consultant, a grant process consultant that serves on the committee.
Wow. Okay. And you're going to send me the link. I mean, or I can see like a screenshot of it or how that would work or something.
Yeah, I did put a link to the software, to the company's website in the chat.
Oh, it's in the chat?
Yeah.
So while Brian is doing that, Marilyn, Andrew is leaving very early tomorrow morning for a flight, so
Okay, bye.
he's not going to be around a lot longer. So I'm just going to let the two of you find time
That's fine.
in the coming month to talk.
That's fine.
So Andrew can, give you his feedback. I used like a similar kind of software through the Arlington Community Foundation to score scholarship applications that I think each scholarship application was rated by 5 different people. And then there was a like a reconciliation. So that, the software is a possibility. But I think Bryant has a lot of insight, so it might be possible for you to meet with him just one-on-one, because as he said, he's been really busy. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk to Andrew and to Brent. I just looked at I just opened the link. So my only other question is, and because we got to hurry, is who would need to approve for getting the money right now? This has been a long-term used process, I guess, relatively speaking, with Arlington County for grants. Who would need to approve the software, using this software or some software like it? Do we know that?
I think that's a Courtney question.
Courtney,
Yeah.
who do we need to have? Is there
Yeah.
any-
I'll ask and get back to you. I'm making a note for myself.
And I think it's not a
Appreciate
long
it.
time. I don't think it's a long time process. According to Bryant, they had a commissioner on that group who had lots of expertise and made a recommendation that the county adopt it. And I believe it's the first time they've used it. So there's a lot of insights.
Okay.
Elizabeth,
Okay,
I'll be
that's it.
super quick. I'll be super quick. Oh, sorry, you still had another one, Marilyn.
I'm sorry.
I thought you had more to say, Marilyn. I'm sorry.
No, I think it sounds like I need to follow up. I'm going to follow up on both the software and talking to anybody else who has input, unless you do, Elizabeth. I know you had to be.
Yes. I was recused, but I was listening very closely to Bryant, and he was saying how people were able to give their opinions and then change their scores. That's how we've done it in the past, and this time we had the scores locked into Karen. And yet we did this one discussion thing where, does anybody have any questions about the process? And nobody really had maybe one or two questions. So I would say, instead of that meeting, and just allow people to write in if they have questions, but instead of that meeting, have a meeting, where we actually can hear why people scored the way they did and change our scores, because I love that.
Okay, I've written that down too as your input. Thank you.
and then Andrew, did you want to?
Well, I have many thoughts, but I'll make this quick. Just because I have a contentious thought, which many might disagree with, but I actually think we can strip down a lot of the required components of the current grant application. For example, I personally don't think we need to see resumes for boards. And again, like, I'm putting this out there because it might be contentious, but I think that I'll start with those two in terms of removing the required materials. I just think that it introduces room for bias, and I think we need to look at more of the technical components in the budget and the impact and sustainability rather than the composition of staff and board members. So like, I think we can heavily strip down some of the required components.
I agree too, because I can't, anyway, I'm leading this, but since I've already put out my opinion, but I do agree that the amount of material, did we really need to look at all that material? Is that material really required? Do you have a board? Do you not have a board? How much do we care about that? Am I looking at the resume? I'm not going to know anything about the resumes. I want to know, are you supporting the community? Have you know what you're doing? How are you going to help the community? Blah, blah, blah. All the other things that I think really matter that are already included versus all the additional attachments and that are a checkbox almost. And I don't know who created those requirements. That's why I was asking the question, who, were those established as something we absolutely should have, and why? But I'm more focused maybe now moving forward, and then let somebody else tell us we shouldn't do that. Depending on what all your input is, but I think that's a good one. Thank you. I agree with that.
So Marilyn, I want to thank you for all your hard work. It's kind of a Pandora's box. There's a lot of different pieces to this, and we have a grantee who is new in our space, our stomping ground. And
OSG, OSG, yeah.
Yeah, OSG, and I actually asked Courtney to invite them to our May meeting. And they're actually, I think it's an opportunity for us to ask them a couple of structured questions that we would ask other, potential grantees or awardees about how the process works. So I think we
Yeah.
have an opportunity prior to that May meeting to craft some questions. And we have the Lighthouse for the Blind also coming in May, and we could ask them questions about when they apply for grants. You know, what do they think works and what do they think is challenging? So I think we have an opportunity for just information gathering already with some of these groups that are going to come in and talk to us.
I
So
think that was always the plan too, that this is internal, this was internal, but if we think of the process, external is what we wanted to do next.
yeah, so I want to thank you. I know that we were going to dedicate time to strategic planning tonight, and we have had just really great discussion. We've made a lot of progress on a number of fronts, and we are going to end by 9. So what I would like to propose to do is on our Google Drive, put a few notes into a framework for the 27-28 strategic plan, and then ask you all just to go in and just put some comments and some notes. And then it's something that Elizabeth can facilitate a discussion in April, and then we can have a more robust discussion in May. I really just, wanted to get us thinking about the strategic planning process so that we are able to approve a plan by July 1st. So, you know, the good news is it's early. I heard a lot of interest in really refining and revising this grants process. So I think that might be fed into the strategic plan. I also heard around housing, not just new construction, but some of Justin's concerns about existing construction, so that might factor in. So unless there's any objections, that's what I suggest doing, to give everybody the next couple months to put some comments in, and then we'll work on it in earnest in May. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, I'm going to start with this, Karen. I think that you have been the chair extraordinary with great ideas, and I've valued all of them. I'm going to put this out, not to, but I feel like we haven't had that much time to work on the strategic plan that we currently have. And often people have 2-year strategic plans, and I just, if we have to review it every year, I feel like maybe maybe we wouldn't really be giving us enough time to work on the goals that we have. So that's my thought.
Well, actually, and I'm suggesting we keep the framework and we just carry it forward. I mean, unless there are major changes. So I'm actually suggesting we keep the framework with the goals. And there may be goals there may be objectives that we just carry forward that we haven't completed. So I agree with you. The idea would be we'd carry it forward 2 years. So it would be fiscal years 27 and 28, but we keep the goals unless we felt really strongly like we needed to add another one, but they're pretty robust.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, I could lead a discussion in March of comments that people would have sent, I mean, in April, of comments that people might have sent in between now and April, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
On the using the existing goal framework.
using the existing goal. Okay, I missed
Yeah,
that part.
and I'll post it. Okay.
Thank you. That sounds terrific.
I can absolutely agree with you, because we quickly did a work plan for 6 months because this commission had no strategic plan. But you know, the true strategic plan is at least a 2-year document. And we are able now just to take that goal framework and then assess where we're at and then how we can use that framework going forward. Okay. I want to thank everybody. This has been like a very robust meeting. We did take that break, so it'd be really useful. You can send me feedback individually, your thoughts about having an extended meeting, but taking a break. I think we'll keep the April meeting as the regular 7 to 9 hybrid meeting. But if you could just send me your thoughts individually about what you think down the road to extend the meeting time, but take a break, I would really appreciate it. So our next meeting, the April meeting, Elizabeth is going to chair. And we obviously are gonna have at least the star auditors and an opportunity for you to talk about the fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28 strategic plan. And then I just wanted to do a recap of our action items. So Marilyn, thank you so much for your work on grants. So you're going to try to talk one-to-one, I think, with Bryant and Andrew and anybody else that wants to have a conversation with you on grants. And
I'm also going to look at the software.
look at the software. And then on a separate note, for the code enforcement, I think were you going to work with Courtney and JD on those meetings with?
No, I think here's what I heard. Well, first of all, I need to give a feedback to Amiri of, what he said based on what JD said, that JD says he wants a one pager for
That's
him
right.
to take to the board prior to the two, and he would facilitate the 2-on-2 board meetings. And then there was going to be a talking to and inviting. He's recommended also inviting to the DAC or somebody talking to the legislative liaison, Esty, Brian Esty.
Yes, Bryant knows him, right?
Yeah, in other words, what would be the next steps before we start bringing in all those other people? And then JD's recommendation first, it was the one page to him to get the board on board and do the and he coordinated, facilitate the 2-on-2 board meetings. Then he would do the and then he recommended inviting the people that Amiri recommended, all the politicians, to the DAC. And I guess we'd get those one at a time. But he said, don't do that yet until we talk to Brian Esty, because that person will know whether we should. I guess we can't just willy-nilly go invite those people without having this legislative liaison telling us that it's okay. So those are the three things I got from the discussion with JD on code. And then I'm also waiting for both Bryant on Queens Court. This would be further backup for our code discussion. From Bryant, an affordable housing issue, the wheelchair-bound person, and then from Justin, who's going to be filing a complaint on the Gray Star issue, mailboxes, etc. And I think, and then I also have to package in the parking enforcement at some point into this, to all of this. I'm tired.
That's a lot. And then I'm going to make those 2 changes that were approved for the budget justification for the position. And then I will submit it to the county clerk, copy Courtney, Elizabeth, because she'll be leading in my absence, and JD. And Courtney, I'll arrange with you to pick up those brochures either late Friday morning, Thursday afternoon or Friday.
Okay, fine.
I'll just coordinate with you. And then Elizabeth, I'll be sure to coordinate with you so that you're prepared for any remarks you might make regarding that budget justification.
Absolutely. And you did a great job. So I'm going to be very passionate about it. I'll say I am working, but almost finished with the SPRC questions that we would want them to have prepared in advance and return to us in writing. And then Courtney was going to help contact the woman on Samia to see about inviting her to a future meeting. on basically on how likely are we going to be able to get the SPRC to include answering questions from the DAC.
Excellent. Are there any other action items that I left out? Or actually, do we have a motion to adjourn our meeting at 8:50?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, meeting adjourned. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. I'll be back for the May meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
have a good trip.
Oh, yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. All right.
You got a flight to catch. Where